Discover the miraculous redemption of the unlikely caregiver, a shocking divine plan revealed. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. A man from Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The man was Elimelech, and he was a Hebrew, a child of the covenant of God, yet in his desperation, he sought refuge in a foreign land. It was in this land of Moab that tragedy struck. Elimelech died, leaving his wife, Naomi, and their 2 sons to fend for themselves. As time flowed like a river, the 2 sons married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. But the hand of affliction was upon them as both sons met the fate of their father, leaving Naomi bereaved and desolate. Grasping her grief, Naomi resolved to return to Bethlehem, for she had heard that the Lord had visited his people, giving them food. "It is better for me to go back," she murmured to her daughters-in-law, and shrouded in sorrow. But Ruth, like a beacon of unwavering loyalty, drew near. "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you," she declared, her heart alight with love. "For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1 verse 16 ESV. As they arrived in Bethlehem, the whispers grew, uncertainty trailing behind them like a shadow. Who were these women, foreign yet resilient? Naomi, now full of grief, felt destitute while Ruth took upon her shoulders the burden of care. With determination carved in her spirit, Ruth made her way to the fields, gleaning among the reapers in a bid to provide sustenance for Naomi and herself. The sun-drenched fields echoed with the sound of scythe against stalk, but Ruth's heart pounded with uncertainty. Yet God's divine providence was at work. Among the laborers was Boaz, a man of wealth and stature, whose gaze swept across the rows of barley and found Ruth. He inquired of those nearby, his interest piqued by her diligence and devotion to Naomi. "Who is that young woman?" he asked. Upon learning of her loyalty, his heart stirred with compassion. "Let her glean among the sheaves, and do not reproach her." Ruth 2 verse 15 ESV. Ruth bowed low, marveling at the favor this man had shown her. Each day revealed a glimmer of hope, an unexpected connection blossoming amid the barley fields. She spoke to Naomi, who saw in Boaz a lifeline, a kinsman with the right to redeem. But uncertainty loomed large as Ruth navigated her status as a Moabite widow, threading through cultural complexities. "Go, my daughter," Naomi whispered under the starlit sky. A plan was unfolding. "Approach Boaz at the threshing floor." Anticipation danced in Ruth's heart, thick with both fear and faith. As the night deepened, Ruth prepared with trepidation, understanding the weight of her request. When she laid at Boaz's feet, the air crackled with the potential of a new tomorrow. He awoke, startled yet intrigued, and together they wove the threads of a divine plan, spoken in hushed tones under the vast heavens. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Ruth's heart raced in the quiet solitude, driven by love and desperate for a ray of hope. As dawn broke, Boaz was moved with purpose. A decision lay before him that would ripple through generations. Unbeknownst to Ruth, God's redemptive plan was unfolding, one that would not only restore her future but intertwine her destiny with the lineage of David, offering a glimpse into a grander narrative that would lead to the Messiah himself. The divine orchestration awaited just beyond the horizon, beckoning Ruth and Boaz into a story of astonishing grace and restoration. When the first light of dawn broke upon the hills of Bethlehem, the air was filled with a sacred tension, as if the very heavens awaited the unfolding of a divine plan. Boaz blinked against the morning sun, his heart still echoing with the weight of Ruth's plea. In that moment, he understood that his role was more than just that of a kinsman. he had the opportunity to be an instrument of God's redeeming grace. Rising swiftly, Boaz gathered his thoughts, determination welling within him. "This matter must be settled today," he murmured, his resolve firm. He understood the laws of redemption and knew he had a duty not only to Ruth but also to Naomi, the widowed matriarch of their family line, Leviticus 25 verse 25. "Take safeguard of our hearts, O Lord," he prayed silently, "that we may follow your leading." With unwavering faith, Boaz strode toward the city gate, where the elders of Bethlehem gathered each day to dispense justice and wisdom. Meanwhile, Ruth remained at the threshing floor, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling within her heart. She pondered Boaz's kindness and the generous provision he had shown her. "What will become of us now?" she whispered, consumed by the seriousness of her situation. Yet deep within her spirit burned a flame of faith, ignited by her confession of loyalty to Naomi and her commitment to God. As Boaz arrived at the gate, he summoned the 10 elders. "Come. Sit here," he beckoned, and they settled down, their faces alight with curiosity. "I have a matter to discuss regarding our family's inheritance," he began, "and the rights of redemption that belong to me as a kinsman." A hush fell over the gathering as Boaz proceeded to explain the story of Naomi's return from Moab and the plight of her daughter-in-law, Ruth. "Now, I am ready to redeem the land she lost, but there is another nearer relative who has the first right." The elders listened intently, their eyes wide with anticipation. Will he accept this responsibility? They wondered, knowing the profound implications it held for the family lineage. What then must be done? Boaz asked seriously, seeking to lay the path before them. "If he refuses, I will redeem it." For Ruth the Moabite, widow of Mahlon, is to have her land and her name carried forth. The weight of Ruth's identity as a foreigner hung heavily in the air, yet within her lay the strength of her unwavering loyalty and her faith in the greatness of God. Days turned to hours as the atmosphere thickened with suspense. Then, to Boaz's astonishment, the nearer kinsman appeared and made haste to gather before the elders. "I cannot redeem it," the man said with a tone of defeat as the implications of such a bond weighed upon him. "I have my own inheritance to protect." Boaz's heart soared as hope blossomed. Turning to the elders, he vowed, "As the Lord lives, I will take up the mantle of redemption." With that declaration, the elders solemnly affirmed his decision, sealing it with their blessings. "May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house, like Rachel and Leah, who built up the house of Israel," they proclaimed, understanding the legacy that was now being forged, Ruth 4 verse 11. As Ruth arrived at the unfolding scene, innocence radiated from her being, unaware of the covenantal bond being established for her. Boaz stood tall, his voice ringing through the air, "Ruth, my beloved Moabite, your faith has paved the way. I redeem Naomi's land, and you shall be my wife." A chorus of joy erupted among the elders, yet in the hidden corners of Providence, the greatest miracle lay waiting. As Ruth stepped forward, her heart swelled with realization. God's plan reached into the depths of the future, entwining her lineage with kingship and a day when the Redeemer would change the fate of the world. And so, the tapestry of Ruth's life began to unfurl, a narrative wrought with redemption and grace, a glimmer of the true redemption to come through an unexpected line. But little did they know, the most staggering act of divine love was yet to be revealed. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the atmosphere around the city gate of Bethlehem buzzed with excitement and a palpable sense of divine purpose. Boaz, filled with the spirit of resolve and anticipation, looked upon Ruth with eyes that saw not merely a widow but a vital part of God's unfolding story. "Come forth, Ruth," he called to her, "for the hand of the Lord directs us." Ruth approached with humility, her heart racing. As Boaz lifted his arms, the elders showered blessings upon them. "This day, a new lineage is born," one elder declared, his voice deep and resonant. "May your union be filled with the joy and legacy of future generations." Yet, within the shadows of the fertile fields, Naomi watched, her heart flooded with joy and sorrow intertwined. "Blessed be the Lord, who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead," she whispered, her spirit lifted in gratitude. The intimate bond they shared was now complete, combining blood and faith to weave hope into the fabric of her life. Thus, Boaz took Ruth to his home, and their union was consummated as the entire town celebrated. They were now bound together under the covenant of marriage, rejoicing in their divine appointment. The heavens rejoiced too, witnessing the fulfillment of promises made long before. As days turned into nights, Ruth's role as a newcomer to Bethlehem transformed. She was no longer the Moabite widow scavenging for scraps, she became a cherished wife, tending her home and nurturing dreams. Yet still, one heart-wrenching prayer lingered: will God bless us with a child? Will our names endure? Naomi, ever perceptive, noticed Ruth's quiet longing. Fear not, my daughter, the Lord has seen your faithfulness. He shall not deny your request. With a faith stirred by years of trial, Naomi embraced Ruth, assuring her, the Lord will establish your house. Days passed, and in the quiet of the night, Ruth felt the stirrings of new life within her. It was a gift from the heavens, a testament to God's boundless grace, a fulfillment of the ancient promise that through the seed of Abraham, nations would be blessed, Genesis 12 verse 3. The child born of the union would carry their hope, and his name would resonate through the ages. When the time came for her delivery, the village gathered in hushed anticipation. Days of labor turned to nights of prayer, and at last, a son was born. With tears of joy and exultation, Ruth cradled the child in her arms, calling him Obed, which meant servant. News of the blessed child traveled swiftly throughout Bethlehem, igniting celebrations and laughter. The elders proclaimed, there is a son born to Naomi, for Obed shall renew her spirit and restore her life. As Ruth lay back, exhaustion giving way to peace, she reflected on her journey from Moab to becoming the grandmother of David, the future king, Ruth 4 verse 17. Yet even in this celebration, Naomi quietly pondered the threads of God's intricate design. With Obed in her lap, she understood that the ripples of their story stretched far beyond Bethlehem and the everyday realm. And so, the story of Ruth, now intertwined with the future of a nation, unveiled not only a moment of personal redemption but a cosmic plan that would echo into eternity. As Obed grew, hope resided within their household. They knew within their spirits, a greater redemption awaited, a promised king who would reconcile all humanity. But unbeknownst to them, the saga was yet to unfold further, and layers of divine purpose clung to the tapestry yet unseen. In the days that followed, as the sun cast long shadows across the fields of Bethlehem, the village rejoiced in the presence of baby Obed. His laughter rang like sweet music, a harmonious echo of the salvation that had entered Naomi and Ruth's lives. Yet in the depths of Naomi's soul, a divine restlessness stirred. She sensed that the child was not merely a symbol of restoration but a pivotal link to the unfolding narrative of her family and indeed, of all Israel. Surely this child is destined for great things, she mused, a prayer forming on her lips. Lord, grant me wisdom to guide him. As Ruth nurtured her son, she found her heart woven deeper into the fabric of Bethlehem. With each passing day, her love for Obed grew, yet the weight of his future rested heavy on her mind. She often recounted the stories of the Lord's kindness to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and the ways God had transformed her grief into joy. May you, my dear Obed, walk in the ways of the Lord, she whispered over him, dedicating his life to the Almighty. Boaz, a steadfast husband and a man of God, marveled at the gift they had received. He often found time to teach Obed, instilling in him the virtues of faith, hard work, and kindness. As you grow, remember the roots from which you came. The Lord is faithful, and to him we owe our lives, he would say, a deep conviction etched in his voice. But within the land of Judah, the winds were changing. Rumors of strife danced through the air, the elders of the city whispered about impending conflicts. We must remain steadfast, Boaz urged the townsfolk during gatherings at the gate. God has not abandoned us, for we are still his chosen people. One fateful evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, a messenger arrived in Bethlehem, breathless and urgent. A war is rising in the east. The Moabites seek to reclaim their land, and they march against us. Fear rippled through the gathered crowd, but Ruth stood firm. Her heart, tempered by tribulations, spoke louder than the murmur of worry that pervaded the assembly. We must turn to the Lord in this time. He has delivered us before, faith shall guide us once more. Her words inspired resolve among the people. Let us pray, Boaz echoed, raising his voice. United in spirit, they bowed, beseeching the Almighty for protection and deliverance. As the days of conflict drew near, Ruth found herself in quiet moments reflecting on the lineage of her son. Obed shall not only carry the legacy of Naomi's family but also that of Israel. His life may hold the key to our nation's future, she contemplatively mused. Obed, a child of promise, played upon the earth that nurtured his very existence. Unknown to him, the tapestry of God's intricate design wove around his life. The very ground he trod upon would one day be the birthplace of kings, shepherded by the hands of those who followed the Lord. Yet amidst all the joy and hope, a shadow loomed. Naomi, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, offered a prayer in solitude. O Lord, reveal to us the path you have ordered. As the days grow long, may we stand firm in faith. And in that stillness, a promise flickered like a candle, a glimmer of hope that beckoned forth the long-awaited deliverance. But little did they know, the mighty hand of God was preparing to unveil a miraculous plan, not only for them but for generations yet to come. As the conflict approached, heaven held its breath, waiting for the fruitful and surprising ways God's sovereign will would unfold through Obed, the servant destined to play a vital role in the lineage of the coming Messiah. In the days that followed the messenger's arrival, the tension in Bethlehem grew palpable. Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz remained vigilant, praying and seeking the Lord's guidance as whispers of impending war filled the air. The sun rose and set, casting shadows of uncertainty across the fields that sustained them. Ruth took to gathering the women of the village. Come, let us speak of the Lord's promises, she called to them, her voice ringing with faith. They gathered around her in a humble circle, their eyes filled with concern. We must remind ourselves of His goodness, Ruth continued. For He who has opened doors before us can do so again. The women nodded, sharing stories of deliverance and provisions that echoed through the generations, remnants of a faith that had endured slavery, hardship, and loss in the desert. Meanwhile, in the cool shade of his fields, Boaz convened the men of Bethlehem. Brothers, we are called not to fear, but to stand firm. We must prepare our hearts and our homes. If conflict arises, our strength lies in our unity and our trust in God. His boldness inspired them, and they resolved to support one another, reinforcing the bonds of kinship that defined their small community. As darkness enveloped the city, Ruth would often find herself in quiet moments, gazing upon her son, Obed, sleeping peacefully. In those hours, she would seek the Lord in prayer, imploring Him to protect her child and to reveal His purposes for him. O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may your hands guide him, for I sense the weight of a great promise upon his life. On the eve of battle, the townsfolk gathered at the gates, their hearts heavy yet hopeful. Today, we shall remember that the Lord fights for us, Boaz proclaimed, his voice echoing through the gathered throng. Let us bring our offerings and lift our hearts to the One who strengthens us. With fervent prayers, they laid down their fears before the Lord, each man and woman pouring out their worries, trusting in His deliverance. And in the midst of this gathering, a notable figure emerged, a neighboring leader from amidst the tribes of Judah, Eliab, who had heard of their plight. I have journeyed because I believe in the faith of this people, he announced to the assembly. We will stand together, and I will lend my forces to aid you. Hope sparked within the crowd, as whispers of divine intervention danced upon the air. God provides, some acknowledged, their voices rising in agreement. He sees our plight and sends help. But amid this burgeoning spirit of faith and anticipation, a darker presence lurked. A figure from the east, fierce and determined, was rallying troops with a cry that resonated with the thirst for vengeance. Our land will not be taken. The Moabites shall not prevail. They declared, though shadows of doubt grazed the edges of their fervor. On the morrow, with the sun barely rising over the hills, war drums began to echo in the distance. Fear intertwined with hope as citizens braced themselves for what lay ahead. As they gathered, Naomi took Obed, her heart racing, cradling him close with the weight of expectation, a mother's instinct for protection mingling with prophetic foresight. Suddenly, a staggering revelation washed over her as she felt his heartbeat in her arms. Could it be, O Lord, that this child, a symbol of our restoration, also bears the weight of our redemption? For surely, your plans are higher than ours. As the first signs of conflict approached, the community clung tightly to the promise of God's faithfulness, unknowingly at the precipice of witnessing a redemptive act that would echo through the ages. What unfolding purposes of providence did God have in mind not only for Obed but for the destiny of his people? The heavens watched in suspense, ready to unveil the greater revelation of his sovereign plan. When the dawn broke over Bethlehem, it ushered in a day saturated with trepidation and divine expectation. The rumble of war drums mingled with the songs of the morning birds, a clash of nature's peace and the impending violence stirring in the hearts of men. Ruth and Naomi, bound by their love for one another, set forth to the city gate, carrying with them the hopes of their people and the innocent weight of Obed, who slept soundly, blissfully unaware of the turmoil surrounding him. As the sun rose higher, the men gathered before the gates, their faces a mixture of determination and dread. "Brothers," Boaz called, his voice steady like a fortified wall. "Look not at the armies that march upon us, but focus instead on the Lord, who commands the heavens and the earth. We have not been abandoned, the God of Israel is with us." From the crowd, Eliab raised his voice, "The alliances forged in faith are unbreakable. Let us bind our hearts together, for our strength lies in unity." The men responded with a resounding affirmation, the clattering of their weapons a rhythm of solidarity, as they prepared for the conflict that awaited them outside the city. However, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The fierce leader from the east, Malach, with fury ignited in his eyes, convened his own men. "Today, we reclaim what is ours. The Moabites will taste the bitterness of defeat. Hear me, my warriors." His voice pierced the air like an arrow, drawing forth their battle cries. They moved forward, a tide of vengeance and fury, unchecked by the promises of peaceful resolutions. As the two forces drew nearer, there was an unease that gripped the hearts of many. Within her home, Naomi clutched Obed tightly, the weight of her responsibility heavy upon her heart. "What shall I do, O Lord?" she whispered, seeking solace. "Protect this child, and guide me in your will." Meanwhile, Ruth, emboldened by Naomi's prayers, approached the gate. Her resolve guided her steps. "I will join the men," she declared. "For I am not only a Moabite, I am a part of this family. May the Lord's will be done through me." The elders looked upon her with a mixture of admiration and wariness, for one woman, especially one of foreign lineage, venturing into the fray was unheard of. "Ruth, you do not need to fight," Boaz implored, his voice rising above the clamor. "But if you choose to go, may the Lord shield you." Yet, her heart surged with an inexplicable determination as she steeled her resolve before them all. "I will stand by my family. If I perish, but I must not cower in the face of evil." As the soldiers confronted each other, devourer and defender, the atmosphere thickened with spiritual tension. In the heart of the conflict, an angel of the Lord ascended, unseen by mortal eyes, dispatched from heaven to intervene in the affairs of humankind. The dust began to swirl as the first clash of arms was heard, like thunder shaking the very foundations of trust and faith. Naomi, filled with both fear and a deep-seated hope, whispered a prayer for protection over Obed. "You, dear child, carry the promise not just for us but for what is to come. You are the unblemished offering amidst the chaos. Your life bears witness to God's redemptive plan." Then, in that pivotal moment, as both armies clashed, the skies opened, and a great light shone down upon Israel. "Fear not, for I am with you. I will deliver you," echoed through their hearts, a reminder of the faithfulness of God amidst their trial. Thus it was revealed, as battle brewed and faith surged, divine purpose hung in the balance. What victory would emerge from this seemingly insurmountable strife? The people of Bethlehem awaited a resolution, the tapestry of God's sovereign plan poised to unravel with the dawn of a new day. Would they witness redemption through unexpected vessels, and might Obed's life presage a promise yet fulfilled? The answer lingered like a sweet fragrance in the air, drawing hearts ever closer to the unfolding revelation of God's magnificent design. As the clamor of clashing steel echoed through the valley, the hearts of the people quaked with fear, yet amid the tumult, the light from above pierced through the smoky veil, casting its glow upon the ground where the fight raged. Ruth, standing among the men, felt the pulse of divine energy thrumming through her veins, both an outsider and a chosen vessel. "Onward, courageous hearts!" she shouted, her voice rising above the din, galvanizing the men around her. "For the Lord fights for us. We shall not waver." With each word, she felt the weight of her lineage, and though a Moabite by birth, her spirit was woven into the fabric of Israel, her faith igniting a bond that transcended earthly divides. Boaz, seeing Ruth's fierceness, could scarcely contain his admiration. Whilst fear clung to him like a shadow, hope ignited as Ruth rallied the troops, her courage an unintentional breath of life. "Remember the promises of our ancestors," he bellowed, raising his sword to the heavens. "For our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Let us not falter in our fight." On the opposing side, Malach, his fury combustible, raged against his foes. "They shall know of our might," he bellowed, brandishing his sword like a serpent seeking to strike. But the ground beneath him seemed to tremble in response, and whispers carried on the wind reminded him of the God of Israel, mighty and stern. For deep within the heart of the conflict, a celestial plan unfurled. As Ruth charged into the fray, she felt the stirrings of something profound. It was not just a battle for survival but an intersection of divine purpose. An ancient memory whispered within her soul, how the Lord had brought forth life through brokenness, how even the stones could cry out, Luke 19 verse 40. "With every swing and thrust, I fight for the promise of hope," she declared, her resolve renewing with the clash of every sword. Naomi, encased in her home yet tethered to the unfolding drama, could sense the presence of the Lord wrapping around her and Obed. "Guide Ruth, my God," she implored as she gazed upon her grandson, a tiny reminder of the lives intertwined in this moment. "Let the fruit of our labor flourish. Let it reveal your plan." As the battle surged, an unexpected darkness gathered over the field. The angel sent from heaven stirred the hearts of the warriors. Confusion swept through Malach's forces, dust began to swirl chaotically, obscuring their vision as if the heavens themselves turned on them. "Behold!" cried Eliab, pointing to the sky, where the angelic host shimmered just beyond mortal sight. The earth trembled beneath the weight of spiritual conflict, yet light continued to shine, cutting through the darkness with divine clarity. "I will be your shield," Ruth shouted as she parried an advancing foe, her heart burning with unwavering faith. She knew that her stand was more than just warrior spirit, it was a testament to God's faithfulness. Then, as if scripted from ancient prophecy, the Lord unleashed a mighty wind that swept across the battlefield, disorienting Malach's army. "Who is this that fights with the strength of Israel?" they cried in despair, their resolve crumbling like brittle leaves in autumn. As the soldiers of Israel surged forward, emboldened by the presence of the Almighty, a word rippled through the crowd. Victory will not only be for today but will echo through generations. For this day is not an ending but a beginning, unveiling what God has long foretold. And as the dust settled, and the hearts of the courageous swelled with hope, the realization dawned, this conflict would yield a harvest far greater than mere survival. In the heart of chaos, God's redemptive work was woven intricately into the very fabric of their lives. Yet as the battle continued, a profound question lingered like morning dew: what miracle lay ahead, hidden within the aftermath of strife, and how would this day shape the inheritance of Obed, the child entrusted with the promise of a kingdom? The answer awaited revelation, stitching together the destinies of Ruth and Naomi within the divine tapestry of God's unchanging plan. As the tempest of battle raged on, the skies became a tapestry of divine intervention, the thundering of hooves and clashing swords grounding the very essence of their struggle. Ruth, fierce and resolute, pressed deeper into the fray, her spirit entwined with that of her people, each sharp breath stoking the flames of her faith. "The Lord has made us a wall, steadfast and unwavering," she cried anew, and the soldiers rallied to her as if she had breathed life into their weary hearts. From within the walls of his stronghold, Boaz strained to see the outcome of the battle, his heart thumping like a war drum. The grim faces of men lined up beside him mirrored his thoughts, each one aware that their fate hung on the edge of Ruth's courage. "Hold fast," he urged, eyes gleaming with fervor. "If we stay true, the Lord shall show his might. Remember how he parted the sea. Remember our fathers who claimed victory through faith, not by sword but by his hand." Meanwhile, Malach's anger festered, now turning into a whirlpool of despair. His forces, once thought invincible, faltered before the very winds of heaven that blew unfavorably for them. "Fight on. Do not yield," he bellowed, though doubt coiled tightly around his heart. Each backward step his men took echoed like a death knell, taunting his claim of supremacy. As Ruth battled on, she felt a peculiar stirring in her soul, an echo of promises unyielded, the very fabric of her life woven into God's grand narrative. "You have not forgotten us, O Lord," she breathed, slashing through another foe. Each swing became an extension of her prayer, a warrior's lament mingled with praise. "I fight not just for survival but for generations yet unborn." In the sacred stillness beyond chaos, Naomi clasped her grandson close to her heart, whispering ancient blessings over Obed, each syllable a soft petition to the God who writes with the ink of destiny. "May the Lord remember his covenant with our fathers. May he reveal through this battle the hope that our lineage shall live on." As twilight neared and the tide of battle began to shift, a rain of fire fell upon Malach's army, not from the skies but kindled within their hearts a fear so profound that it stilled their swords. "What madness is this?" they muttered amongst themselves, their gazes flitting over the figures of Ruth and her kin. The emotional toll tightened around them like chains, and in their faltering, Ruth saw the glimmers of victory, the softening of hardened hearts. Then, in a moment of haunting clarity, a figure emerged from the sky, a mighty angel, resplendent and fierce. With a voice like thunder, it declared, "Fear not, for the Lord your God is in your midst. He fights for you." And it was as if the very foundations of the earth trembled at the revelation of God's power. The soldiers of Israel surged, callbacks of the ancient songs of deliverance igniting their spirits. "The Lord of hosts has drawn near. We shall not be forsaken." Their voices soared as they charged forward, emboldened by a promise that transcended battle itself. And in the heart of this divine orchestration, whispers of a plan unfurled like petals in spring. "For every struggle shapes the path to redemption," echoed Ruth's thoughts, envisioning bright tomorrows amidst sorrow. Yet, even as victory seemed near, a harbinger loomed in the shadows. The question of Obed's future remained unspoken. To whose lineage would this child belong? What covenant would he uphold amidst the sprawling tapestry of Israel, and how would his life manifest the very whispers of God's promise? It was not just a victory in battle that awaited them, but an unveiling of a destiny woven deeply into the heart of God's eternal plan. Thus, as darkness began to yield to the dawn, the ground itself trembled with anticipation for the miracles yet to come, revealing the path where love and God's covenant would meet in miraculous grace. As the chorus of victory resounded upon the battlefield, and the echoes of despair faded from Malach's forces, Ruth stood in the center of the maelstrom, her breath mingling with the dust of conflict and resolute faith. The cries of slain warriors became a somber backdrop to her silent prayer. "O Lord," she whispered, her heart lifted in communion, "may we be the vessels of your peace, the promise of hope for our people." The dust began to settle, and Ruth's eyes, bright with determination, sought the faces of her brethren. Boaz, breaking from the confines of his stronghold, emerged into the light of victory, and his heart leaped within him. "Look upon the bounty that the Lord has provided," he declared, reveling in the sight of his kin, gathered and united. "For the battle is not ours but the Lord's, and he has shown us his might this day." With renewed fervor, the Israelites poured their energy into the remnants of the enemy, pushing further, seeking not merely to win, but to affirm the very promises inscribed on their hearts by the God of their fathers. And in the chaos, as the light of day began to retreat, Ruth stood firm. "Let us not seek vengeance," she cried, her voice cutting through the din, "but let us be the instruments of his mercy, for even the most hardened heart can be softened by grace." Words fell from her lips like ancient wisdom, stirring in the hearts of those around her. The soldiers paused, recognizing the depth of the truth she spoke. Remembering the tales of old, they grasped the weight of their covenant with God. "Let us remember his mercy as we avenge our brothers," one soldier echoed. As dusk wrapped its warm cloak over the wearied battlefield, Malach found himself swallowed in despair amidst the remnants of his shattered army. Shadows loomed over him, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun that now glimmered far away. "We are defeated," he murmured, kneeling in the dirt, refusing to meet the eyes of his fleeing soldiers. "What hope remains?" At that moment, a stillness enveloped the land, for the heavens groaned with a revelation. As Ruth gazed upon the horizon, a fire kindled in her heart, a clarity dawning which made her spirit surge. The angel's voice echoed in her mind, and a realization swelled: this victory was but the beginning of something greater. Her instincts guided her toward where Malach knelt. With each step, she felt time stretch and the purpose of the moment crystallize in her mind. "Hear me, Malach," she spoke, her voice strong but serene, "the God of Israel has not forsaken you. In your defeat, there lies a path of redemption. Reconcile, and you may yet discover the grace that flows from him who restores." His eyes, once filled with defiance, met hers, and somewhere within the depths of his weariness, a flicker of curiosity stirred. Perhaps there was a truth within her words, a seed of hope that might sprout from this ruin he had wrought. As the Israelites began to gather their wounded and lift the fallen, a new dawn awaited them, a dawn not just of light, but of understanding. The future of Obed, Ruth's beloved grandson, was destined to unfold, heralding a legacy of mercy and lineage which would echo through the ages. For the story of Israel did not end in the fields of battle. Rather, a profound mystery was afoot, woven into the fabric of their trials and triumphs, how from the roots of this struggle would bloom a lineage carrying the weight of salvation. The hearts of all gathered there waited for the revelation of his plan, a whisper of divine love veiled beneath the depth of their struggle. Thus the question lingered in the air: what purpose awaited Obed? Would his name echo through time as a bearer of grace, intertwining the fates of man and God? As darkness fled before the dawn, the path ahead unfurled, leading them into a future yet unseen, where even the least among them would play a part in God's unfolding tapestry of redemptive love. As the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon, illuminating the battlefield where victory had come at a great price, a profound stillness enveloped the land. The hearts of the people of Bethlehem, weary yet filled with hope, gathered at the gates, their spirits buoyed by the mighty hand of God that had intervened. Ruth stood among them, her heart swelling with both gratitude and awe. "Glory be to the Lord, who has fought for us," she declared, her voice ringing clear and resolute, echoing through the ranks of those who had stood firm in faith. "He has delivered us from the brink of despair, and in our victory, we find our hope renewed." Boaz, his heart bursting with pride at Ruth's bravery, took her hand. "You have led us with strength, Ruth, not a Moabite but a beacon of God's promise and faithfulness," he proclaimed. The people around them listened, fully grasping the significance of her words, for she spoke not as an outsider but as one who had become woven into the very fabric of their community, a vessel for God's redemptive purpose. And as the sun brightened the day, Naomi emerged from the shadows, cradling little Obed against her chest. "Oh, sweet child of promise," she murmured, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Your life is our future, a new covenant written in love." From this day forth, you will carry the legacy of redemption. The elders gathered, their voices resounding in prayer, a prayer that bound the people not only together in thanksgiving but also in aspiration for what was yet to unfold. Lord, bless this child, Obed, and bless the union that has borne him, they intoned, for through him, generations shall rise to know your mercy. In the heart of Bethlehem, the transformation wrought by the events unfurling around Obed would echo through history. His life was a fulfillment of the promise that even in the midst of trials, God raises up a remnant destined to yield blessings far beyond their understanding. As the people began to return to their homes, a renewed spirit swelled within them, a collective hope that they were partakers in something magnificent. United in faith, they would nurture Obed and treasure the tale of redemption that had unfolded among them, a narrative firmly rooted in the ancient promises of God. Ruth held her son tighter, glancing toward her beloved husband, Boaz. This is but the beginning, my love. God has much more in store, perhaps even beyond our wildest dreams. His gaze met hers, and within it danced shared faith that knew no boundaries and embraced the unknown. The bond forged in adversity entwined itself with love, knitting their lives and destinies into an everlasting covenant. From Ruth's Moabite roots to the throne of Israel, God's plan was indeed extravagant and intricate, for his faithfulness had not wavered, and his promises had not faltered. As years unfurled, Obed grew under the loving eyes of Ruth and Naomi. The blessings of God poured over their household like rich honey, sweetening their days. His laughter rang like a melody in the hearts of those near him, a cherished reminder of the miracle born from loyalty and divine favor. And as Naomi watched Obed grow, she saw not just her grandson, but the promise that flickered with each passing day. In time, Obed fathered Jesse, and in Jesse, there would arise a King David, the shepherd who would unify Israel and draw his lineage from this very tale of redeeming love. As the walls of Bethlehem stood ever strong, a profound truth echoed through the generations: God's plan, skillfully woven into the fabric of human history, would reveal its ultimate fulfillment in the Messiah, born of a woman, who would redeem not only a nation but the world. For through this lineage, hope would arise as light dispelled darkness, and freedom would flow like rivers to parched souls. Thus, the story of Ruth, Naomi, and Obed became etched in the annals of time, a testament of love that breaks barriers, love that witnesses the hand of God, and love that carries the melody of redemption through every season. And so, dear friends, take heart in the sweetness of this tale, understanding that just as God weaves together our stories, there lies a divine blueprint of hope for each of us. Let us commit ourselves to being vessels of grace, nurturing the seeds of faith within our hearts and the hearts of those around us. Join us on this journey of discovering the rich tapestry of God's Word. Subscribe immediately to ensure you never miss these powerful biblical stories that continue to transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word far and wide, igniting hearts with His truth. Comment below your spiritual reflections and the ways this biblical story has impacted your faith journey. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's redemptive love today. Together, let us celebrate His faithfulness and carry the message of His hope to all the world.